Hi, after watching the video, click the link in the description to download the program.
Postherpetic neuralgia, PHN, is the single most common complication of shingles. It's absolute agony. Most sufferers agree that it is easily worse than the shingles that led to it. PHN is constant, unrelenting, searing nerve pain. You can do almost nothing to get comfort. My brother is 6 feet tall, 185 pounds of mostly muscle, and he's worked in some of the toughest working conditions known, and smiled and laughed his way through it all. Yet all the while he had this PHN, I often saw tears in his eyes. It was that awful. Not in a million years could I ever imagine my brother crying, and yet there he was. The initial shingles attack, while deeply unpleasant, was a cakewalk compared to the horrors of PHN. My brother's PHN ended after 8 months, possibly only because of something he did about a week before it ended. And this is something you'd really want to know about, and I'll explain it in a second. But when the PHN did clear up, we thought this whole horrible business was finally over. What else could happen now? Something else did happen. Just when you think you're in the clear. 11 months later, my brother had shingles again. We looked at him as he told us the news, and we were totally lost for words. That didn't matter, though, because he had something to say to us. He told us this time it's going to be different. This time he was going to save himself from the misery of everything that had happened before. First, that afternoon, he went to the doctor. My brother respected doctors' knowledge, even though it hadn't helped him last time. But second, and this was where things would be different this time, he was going to take matters into his own hands, too. His first experience of postherpetic neuralgia, PHN, had been awful. Doctors had been unable to help, and he had just had to wait it out. As the pain and exhaustion had worn him down, he'd looked for other ways of addressing the misery, and he'd got hold of a shingles treatment program from a natural health practitioner called Julissa Clay. Julissa's program was called the Shingles Solution. The Shingles Solution has a very solid reputation and tens of thousands of delighted followers. Julissa Clay herself is a celebrated and highly respected natural health practitioner who specializes in resolving some of the world's worst illnesses. My brother isn't really into natural remedies, but he'd been in that much pain he was willing to step outside the box in search of something to end the misery. One problem, he'd got hold of the program way too late. He'd had painful PHN for more than 7 months at that point. Ideally, you start to follow the program's guidance in the first days of shingles, while you still got the scabs and itching, not 7 months later when shingles is a distant memory and you're in daily agony with PHN. But the pain wasn't letting up, so he just did everything the program told him to do. Incredibly, just about a week later, the PHN had melted away. It had faded from about the 3rd day and disappeared completely by the 8th. My brother was disbelieving, relieved, grateful. His doctor was happy for him, but couldn't explain it. She admitted some natural remedies do work very well where medicine had failed. But now, 11 months later, here he was at the start of a second attack of shingles, and if my brother knew anything, he knew he wasn't going to go through PHN again. Confession time. He told us something, though, that we didn't know. He said that this program had been easy to follow, and clearly it worked, but once his PHN cleared, he'd not bothered to keep up with its simple instructions. And that mattered a lot. Why? Because one of the program's strongest benefits was that it not only resolved itching and pain during shingles, it not only avoided PHN after shingles, it also took away the causes of shingles ever occurring again. He should have stuck with it after the pain had ended. He wouldn't have shingles again if he had, and he knew it. Getting it right this time. This time he did it right from day one. He followed the instructions in Julissa Clay's program to the letter, and his experience of shingles was dramatically different. This time, itching was minimal and infrequent. Nerve pain was mild and lasted days instead of weeks. He suffered none of the fatigue of last time. He didn't lose any sleep. He was able to continue going to work. He endured fewer scabs, and they cleared quickly, mostly without scarring. And when all this was clear, about 15 days later, he didn't have even a hint of PHN. No mistakes this time. And this time he didn't make the mistake he'd made last time. This time he maintained the changes, and 7 years later he's not had even a whisper of shingles. In fact, he believes that the virus that caused it has died out completely. Now all this is good and well, but it wouldn't be reason for me to be writing to you today if that was the end of it. Once again, it wasn't the end of it. But here's the twist in the tale. 6 months ago, it was me who had shingles. I went to bed fine. I woke up very much not fine. But at least I knew what it was, and I knew what to do. My first call was to my doctor. My second was to my brother. Brother, send me that program. Send it now. He did, and I did exactly what the program told me. I followed the guidance to the letter. I cut no corners, took no chances, and I saw my shingles out in just 15 days, which has to be some sort of world record. But more than that, and I thank my stars for this, I never suffered postherpetic neuralgia, PHN. The possible weeks, months, or years of intense nerve pain, sleepless nights, and very low moods were what I was most scared of. I'd seen my brother suffer it all, and I'd read about other people's experience of PHN, and I wanted more than anything to avoid that. And I did avoid it. All of it. What the Shingles Solution did for me. The program did 4 things for me. These are essential for anybody suffering shingles right now. They were crucial to my quick and full recovery. 1. The program cleared up my shingles scabs in record time. They dried quickly and cleared with virtually no scarring. 2. It reduced the itching to almost nothing and ensured I had almost no pain at all. Shingles for me was almost a background feeling. It didn't affect my day-to-day life at all. 3. The program stopped me suffering postherpetic neuralgia, PHN, a fate I absolutely dreaded. I was probably most glad about this. When my shingles went, there were no PHN complications afterwards. 4. It has ensured that my first attack of shingles was my last attack of shingles. Even though I was able to minimize my shingles experience, I certainly didn't want it a second time. I had shingles for less than half the time most other people have it, and I suffered 0 after effects. If you have to have shingles, this is the way you want to have it. And do be clear about this. There's nothing unusual about the outcome I enjoyed. I wasn't some rare lucky person. Put plainly, thousands of people with shingles take this natural, evidence-based approach to their illness and get well quickly, with minimal pain and no after effects. Others trust drugs and pharmaceuticals only and take their chances. That, as my brother found out, can end very badly. How I avoided shingles horror. Let me tell you how Julissa Clay's program achieves what it does, and you'll see for yourself. You're possibly aware that shingles is caused by the varicella-zoster virus. Remember chickenpox? The varicella-zoster virus has been with you since you got rid of that illness, which was possibly decades ago. Our immune systems beat and then suppress the virus so that it no longer harms us. However, the virus still lies dormant in our nerve cells. Our immune system keeps it in check so that it does us no further harm. However, if the immune system falters, the varicella-zoster virus reactivates, and shingles is the result. Most people had chickenpox when they were young. They therefore carry the varicella-zoster virus. Many never go on to get shingles. Their immune system wins out and varicella-zoster remains dormant for life, never getting the chance to resurface. Many others do get the illness. Millions every year, in fact. I'm one of those people. You are too. Basically, our immune system fought a losing battle and the virus has run rampant throughout the nervous system. If you're suffering right now, I don't need to describe the consequences of this. But as you now realize, it's not only the suffering we go through in the first 4 to 6 weeks that causes problems. The mix of weakened immune system and a system-wide attack on nerves is very dangerous. Shingles leads to complications, with intensely painful PHN its most common complication. But the illness can also spread throughout the nervous system, attacking organs and causing brain and nerve damage. There are potentially deadly complications, which include a heightened risk of tumors, poorly controlled blood sugars, degenerative brain disease, leaky gut, metabolic syndrome, heart disease, and liver disease. We need to beat this illness while we have it. Right now, in other words. We need to ensure it doesn't result in ongoing nerve damage and the ravages of PHN. And we want to be absolutely sure that this time is the last time we suffer the illness. Acting too slowly or not taking advantage of the best guidance for beating shingles can be a health disaster. How long can postherpetic neuralgia, PHN, last? What's truly frightening about PHN is that it can last as little as a few weeks, but as much as years. So 4 to 6 weeks of painful, exhausting shingles isn't necessarily the end of the story. In fact, for too many people, it's the start of something truly horrific. PHN can last months or years. Out of every 100 people who get shingles, 2 of them will suffer PHN for 5 years. Having seen my brother nearly crushed by it over 8 months, I understand why people who suffer its unrelenting pain for years often end up with serious mental health challenges. Each time you have shingles, you run a real risk of PHN straight afterwards, which is one of the strongest reasons I can think of to absolutely not want the illness a second time. And how many times can you get shingles? One thing worse than getting shingles is getting it again. In the U.S., Harvard's own researchers have concluded that your chances of getting shingles a second time is about the same as your chances of getting it the first time. That's terrible news if you're already in the middle of your first attack. Other facts about shingles aren't exactly comforting. If you had a bad first case of shingles, or if you're a woman, or if you're currently over the age of 50, you have a measurably higher chance of getting shingles a second time. So if you're over 50, or intending to eventually be over the age of 50, your risks are rising with each passing year. If you've got shingles right now, well, prepare yourself for another hit in due course, and brace yourself for the real possibility that the second one will be measurably worse than this first one. Except, it no longer has to be like this. We now know a reliable and effective way around all this. Julissa Clay's The Shingles Solution has been quietly beating shingles at its own game for years now. Tens of thousands of people who started with shingles have followed Julissa's guidance. They've had a very different experience to the usual horror stories. Far less itching, little to almost no pain at all. Very fast recovery from the initial attack. No PHN afterwards. And no repeat of the disease. Why this works? The weakness of the standard medical approach to shingles is that they focus heavily on reducing the symptoms of the disease and not nearly enough on obliterating its causes, which means all too often they suppress the effects of the illness but leave its underlying cause in place. So, in effect, you remain ill even when it seems on the surface that things are being managed. The Shingles Solution doesn't make this mistake. The cause of shingles is weakened immune system. Therefore, the program focuses entirely on returning your immune system to its full strength. So the program did give me very effective remedies to quickly end the terrible itching and pain of shingles, but it also did something vitally important for my long-term health. It completely rejuvenated my immune system, and because of that, I suffered significantly less and for a much shorter time while I actually had shingles. My body fought off shingles and the fatigue, the joint pain, the itching, and the intense pain in double time. I suffered absolutely no after effects, PHN being the one I feared most. And I don't expect to ever get shingles again, so no fear of going through all this ever again. The program is a complete response to shingles. It powerfully treats the illness while you've got it, and you definitely need some relief while you have the illness, but it also protects you from even worse complications and the possibility of it coming back again. This is how it works. A weakened immune system let the virus get the upper hand. That's why we get shingles. A strong immune system, capable of handling whatever comes its way, is the only response to this disease. Shingles is considered a lifestyle disease. After all, an immune system doesn't just become weaker for no reason. There's a cause. And the cause is specific lifestyle habits that compromise the immune system, meaning it's no longer strong enough to hold off the virus. Undo what you're doing that is weakening your immune system, and you once again have a strong immune system. None of this is magic. Every single piece of information and guidance in Julissa's program has years of scientific and research evidence behind it, all verified at university and research institutions across the world. The Shingles Solution is hard science applied to a distressing and painful disease in a practical, straightforward, and completely natural way. And it has absolutely fantastic outcomes. What is the Shingles Solution? For all its power, Julissa Clay's The Shingles Solution is a simple plan delivered in 2 straightforward phases over just 4 weeks. Each phase comes with a daily instruction sheet. I knew what to do and when to do it. No guesswork, just do it and feel the change.
Click the link in the description to download the program.